1985. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, the largest company in the world, at a valuation of nearly $3 trillion as of the making of this video, was fired from Apple because of a clash with CEO John Sculley.
I'm the evidence! I'm the world's leading expert in the Mac, John. What's your resume?
You're issuing contradictory instructions, you're insubordinate, you make people miserable. Our top engineers are fleeing to Sun, Dell, HP. Wall Street doesn't know who's driving the bus. We've lost hundreds of millions in value, and I'm the CEO of Apple, Steve. That's my resume.
But before that, you sold carbonated sugar water, right?
A man Steve hired to help run the company only a few years prior. At least, that's what most people were led to believe. The real reason Steve was fired was Steve had an uncompromising personality and was notoriously difficult to work with, as he would never compromise on his vision.
And I forced the vote because I believed I was right. I still believe I'm right, and I'm right.
Despite founding the company and demonstrating exceptional vision for the future, Steve found himself pushed out of his own company, which poses a great question about authenticity, because our actions and motivations in life are run by a desire to uphold our values. But what's the point in being authentic to who we are if it's in direct conflict with the world around us? These statistics vary by country, but consider for a moment your own relationship towards yourself and how it exists in your own life. Does it show up on good days, like you're on top of the world, then vanish on other days, leaving you feeling lost? Has it ever placed you in a vulnerable position, attached to an imperfect partner, or finally breaking up with your toxic ex? While my entire channel aims to delve into these topics to some extent, I recognize that our perceptions of ourselves is more critical than our ability to change it, especially when our very selves are shaped by culture and society to limit us. Does it really matter if you're portraying an image that's far from your true self, even if it gains you popularity or success? Where is the disconnect? It's time we unravel that mystery and explore a better framework for understanding ourselves. A concept frequently discussed in personal development, but often overlooked in formal education. A question: who is the real you? When you engage in a meaningful conversation, or when you fall in love in a relationship, what is the significance of you being true to you in these interactions? Authenticity is commonly defined as being genuine and true to oneself, an essential aspect of that feeling called freedom. But I don't think this says much about what being authentic really represents. I think a better way of looking at it is if, in any given moment, you feel at peace with your choices. You're compelled to be your authentic self because a feeling believes it represents you. And that feeling is a good one when it represents who you are, how you think, and how you act. Basically, when you feel like you're presenting the best version of yourself. But hone in on this one point. Authenticity equals a feeling. It's that feeling you get in the back of your mind in any situation saying, "Hey, are you being real right now, or are you just playing a role?" It's that feeling you get when your gut tells you to do one thing and you do the opposite. Why is that so important? Because we often use feelings as the measure of our happiness. We look at someone who seems to live freely and think they are fortunate. How did they achieve that level of success and freedom? And never do we think, in what lens or frame or interpretation are they seeing from? How do they see? Understanding that living authentically is simply a reflection of your filters on life is the best way to understand that it is not hard to achieve, nor does it make a person better or worse. Sure, we can normally tell when those around us are deceiving themselves and others with a mask, but that doesn't help us in understanding how to solve the problem. Paradoxically, the key to being you in every moment is to simply free yourself from yourself, as you are both the jailer and the prisoner. Now what? How does this change the reality of a person struggling with self-doubt or someone who constantly wears a mask to fit in? The simple mention of authenticity equaling a feeling changes nothing. It may make me see authenticity in a different light temporarily, but what part of that is actionable advice? What part of that can we become? What part of that will stick? Just another sale pitch to better yourself, right?
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
To answer that question, I'll post you another question. What is your relationship with time? Who are you really? Who are you authentic to? As you look back on the years and the changes that have occurred, it's impossible to pinpoint a single version of yourself. You have been one person at 5, a completely different person at 10, 15, and yet another version of yourself at 20, 25, and 35. Every version brings a new understanding of the world, the understanding that is so unfamiliar today that if you were to talk to your past self from many years ago, you wouldn't recognize yourself. Amidst all these constant changes, you begin to wonder how authenticity can exist in such a volatile environment, compared to an object like a famous baseball card or a vintage car with their distinct and easily definable authenticity. Your ever-shifting nature makes it hard to determine what part of you is real and what isn't. It's almost as if everything about you is counterfeit. How can I remain true to what I consider to be authentic when my worldview and understanding of life morph so drastically over time? As much as we desire permanence in our identity, it's an unachievable illusion. There is no one version of you. Reflect on those moments in your life where you felt your perspective drastically change. What triggered these shifts in your thinking? This is a relationship that is often recognized as growing up.
And the earth is
Flat.
the earth is flat.
My reality, my senses tell me that the earth is flat and stationary.
Think about all the thoughts that has entered your life and left. How much of that do you still have in possession today? Seriously, how many thoughts do you own right now? For most of us, the biggest issue lies in identifying with our thoughts. Where every thought that pops up is believed to be yours, you own them, and they represent you. The forgetting curve, described by psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, illustrates that we tend to forget information rapidly at first, and then the rate of forgetting slows down over time. The curve suggests that a significant portion of information is forgotten relatively quickly, yet we cling to many of our thoughts in the highest of importance when they come and go so easily. Pavlov's dogs refers to Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning experiments, where dogs learn to associate a bell ringing with food, salivating when the bell rings. Just ringing the bell triggers a strong physiological response. Sometimes Pavlov's dog is often associated with external factors, like scrolling through social media. Just the anticipation of pulling out the phone to check what's next is enough to release dopamine in the brain. It's a comparison often used as a distraction from the real villain, identity, the greatest supervillain of modern life, the automatic thought identity, where every thought that pops up in your mind is yours, where you are your thoughts and there is no doubt in your mind.
I feel so sorry for you, Walt.
Fuck you.
We often find ourselves emotionally reacting to thoughts, even when there is no external stimulus. But let me propose something even more twisted, my friend. If Pavlov's dog salivates when hearing the bell, even when there is no food, possibly you yourself identify when hearing a thought, even when there is no person. A real slave is one that is living married to every thought. Just like the dog is stimulated by the bell, the person is stimulated by a thought, believing it to be real. A feeling as though the moment a thought enters your life, it immediately matters. And the more mesmerized you are, the more dangerous this relationship becomes.
How often do you still battle with depression?
Oh, I'm always depressed, all the time. Do you feel that you're happier right now than when you were broke, or not really?
Sometimes.
I had to stop because I had everything and I was absolutely broken inside.
I so badly want to be Catherine Hudson that I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore sometimes.
Okay.
I don't want to be too dark, but I genuinely didn't think I would make it to 17.
You didn't think you'd make it to 17?
No.
Living on this mental edge, your mind no longer becomes an option. It becomes a necessity in order to keep living out the character called you. Living in this conditioned state is akin to being a mental captive, tethered to every thought that arises. The quality of our thoughts have been changing our entire life, so why fixate on them as if they're our most important representation of us. Why do we need to find something that defines us? Maybe we can stop taking ourselves so seriously. Quote, "The thoughts you own end up owning you." But there's a silver lining to this realization. It doesn't have to continue that way. It's time for you to take control over your identity. This often involves the idea of systematically examining your thought patterns and finding ways to detach from them, ultimately allowing you to have a more adaptive and resilient sense of self that isn't swayed by every passing thought. To grow up beyond identifying with every thought, offering you the superpower to shape your identity consciously. But as we know too well, the mind is filled with tricks holding us back. The seed. Just as seeds have the potential to grow into plants if provided with the right conditions and care, thoughts have the potential to develop into ideas or actions when nurtured and cultivated. Like with Neo's awakening, in The Matrix, Neo begins with a thought seed, an unsettling feeling that reality is not what it seems. He nurtures this thought by seeking answers, learning from Morpheus, undergoing intense training, and slowly that seed is interconnected with new ideas and experiences.
Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
Eventually, this thought seed grows with so many connections and aha moments that it transforms into the One, a powerful understanding about reality that is capable of changing the Matrix. If you've watched up to this point, then you might already have ideas of what escaping the Matrix is generally about. For many, the Matrix is like escaping a computer simulation, exactly like Neo. But what if I told you that was another trick? The idea escaping a simulation is a thought that is happening inside the simulation. It is a part of the simulation. All thoughts you've ever had are happening inside the Matrix. So they are part of the Matrix. They are part of the illusion. If you haven't escaped ideas and concepts, then you haven't escaped the Matrix. Hold on. Let's imagine a designer programming a video game. And inside that game, they create special abilities like shooting fireballs or jumping really high. All of these powers only exist inside the game, not outside of it. They were created for fun. Similarly, in this game we are playing called You, everything inside of it, like thinking or feeling, only exist inside this game and not outside of it. Thinking and feeling is a feature of this game. No amount of thinking will ever be enough to understand the Matrix, as thinking is the Matrix. If we take the movie The Matrix literally, then Neo never escaped it. He only changed scenery. The Matrix is more than just scenery. It is you. You are the Matrix. You are the entire game. So to truly escape it, the character you think you are and all its superpowers must die, and what will be left is the real you. You are not the character playing the game in a simulation. You are the entire simulation. All of it. Neo did not simply gain the power to change some computer code. He became the simulation, and so can change it as he sees fit. Before we could even form our first thoughts as children, we have been fed a narrative of what reality is and what you are. You are a person, and you're living a life, and you will die one day. It was a seed implanted so early we never questioned it. We just took it as fact, and that seed became the core of our personality. Ponder this. If you were never told you were a person, would you think you were a person right now? It's not so obvious. The Matrix is that seed, the first seed that was planted within you that grew over the course of your life. It shaped every experience you had into, I am experiencing. But why, my friend, is there a person experiencing? Maybe, just maybe, there is only experience. Not a person experiencing, but experience personing. You are not the person. You are experience itself, pretending to be a person. The very language you speak in today's world is taught to you from birth, reinforcing the idea that you are a person.
You can't take my gender identity away from me because that's mine and not yours.
So many different options for who you are and how to define that. So when someone chooses a personal pronoun that they identify with, using that pronoun is a form of respect and a form of validation that, yes, this is your rightful identity and I will respect that.
In no way am I saying gender isn't a real struggle some people have. What I'm pointing to is the total mesmerization and need to be an individual, to be defined as something. In each of these words, the meaning identity is a fundamental component. Like an actor in a movie puts on a performance impersonating a character. We have learned via osmosis to play a character and speak to each other like we are people talking to other people. Language is the game we play with each other, the make-believe game of people. Language is not merely a tool for communication, it is a powerful force that shapes how we think about ourselves. From the moment we begin acquiring language as infants, the concept of I is ingrained in our consciousness. It becomes the central point of reference for our thoughts, experiences, and interactions with the world. I vision. It reinforces the idea that in every moment there is an I, seeing and doing. A musical instrument is learned much the same way, daily practice instilling hand-selected ideas more prominently into us. But there is the important point here, in that we want good habits to be reinforced. This way we grow effectively. If we were to reinforce bad habits, that could stunt our growth and only serve to limit us. Similarly, if we make a direct comparison to life, one's ability to play the instrument of life, then maybe some concepts are more useful than others to reinforce, and maybe some concepts like I are just bad practice that limit us. To be clear, I'm not saying that I language is inherently bad, nor do I think having personal preferences or achievements you're proud of is a bad thing. The aim of this video isn't to philosophize about the repercussions of having an identity. It's about drawing awareness to the tricky nature of who you are as a person. Do you care more about appearing as though you have happiness or actually having happiness? The Matrix isn't a computer simulation. The Matrix is when you're living your life on such an edge that it means that you are completely and utterly hypnotized by every expectation, desire, and thought, such that your greater life freedoms are placed in the background in order to continue this self-addiction game. It never seems to work out. Freedom. It's fun to talk about freedom, or imagining having as much freedom as possible. But what's the point when your next thought can potentially drag you down, losing it all, or having to work non-stop in order to maintain that happiness? That is the real Matrix.
So many days is yet to come. Too many times has come to pass. Many moments put aside, getting out alive, getting out alive, writing letters in the sand, lost to ocean's gentle hand. Through the sunrise I will thrive, getting out alive, getting out alive. When you find that open door, you gotta let them love you more. Tender hearts will always fight the darkness of the light. Tender heart